the audience. Need some more audience. The ice is melting like we've never seen before. This is a serious problem because it affects everyone, whether they live on the coast or not. According to the 10 hottest global years on record, 2017 was the third hottest year that we've ever recorded. This is a serious problem because we're starting to break records that we cannot come back from. According to Shakeman and Berwin from the article Polar Ice is Disappearing, Setting Off Climate Alarms, the Arctic Sea is the lowest that it's ever been, and it's had its lowest peak month in the last 40 years. Another area that is suffering is Greenland. According to another article published by Shakeman called Inside Climate News, Greenland is losing 260 billion tons of ice a year, and that will have serious repercussions. Greenland, according to Shakeman, has also recorded its highest temperature since 1978. Another area that's suffering is Antarctica. They're on track to lose around 1 trillion tons of ice each year. It is becoming increasingly hard to stop what's happening with the ice on Earth, and that's why I think it's such a big problem. And I chose this topic because of the way it's happening is it's called a positive feedback loop, and the more it happens, the easier it is for it to continue to happen. And you see this with runoff water, and you see this with just the loss of our ice caps and large glaciers. So one thing that ice caps and large glaciers and large pieces of ice, what they do is since they're like white in color, they reflect sunlight back into the Earth's atmosphere, and what it does is keeps the temperature low. So what happens when ice melts is more sunlight is absorbed into the Earth, creating a higher temperature, which then makes it easier for even more ice to melt. So it just creates this loop, and so whenever the ice caps shrink, it just continues to make it hotter, which continues to let it shrink, which continues to make it hotter. And so a similar thing occurs with glacial runoff, which what happens is there will be large glaciers and the water will run off, and after it melts, and it's fresh water, so it'll be less dense than the seawater. So instead of just accumulating with the water, sort of like oil, it'll sit on top and stay by the glacier, which will continue to melt the glacier since it's warmer than the seawater. That's from an article by Nick LeVar called, it was a web article written by Nick LeVar, and that happens when the salt water is more dense than the glacial runoff. And then, so that, it's the same thing, positive feedback loop for that. And then Bob McDonald wrote on the occurrence of the glaciers reflecting sunlight, creating a warmer globe. Another problem that can happen with melting glaciers and ice caps and just ice in general on the world is it can raise the sea levels. And this can be a very serious problem, really, for everyone. There's major cities along the coast and throughout islands, they can just be devastated. And one of the main problems is flooding for humans. And all low-lying areas, like, for example, Florida could be almost totally leveled by water in couple hundred years, which is a long ways away, but still important to recognize early. Another problem that you see is extinction with animals like polar bears. They're starving, and they're drowning because they live on the glaciers. So here I have a video of 10 trillion tons of ice breaking off and falling into the sea in the Antarctic. This is all the melted area right here. That's where it was connected. Now it's all melted.